Considerations of any changes, additions, or removal to the agenda. Public comment. We have Jeannie here.
Hi.
Hey Jeannie, welcome.
Hello.
Do you want to take her name?
Yeah. Jeannie Fox Hughes, FOX-HUGHES.
Thank you.
So I've had a home in Ludlow since 2018. It's a larger home, so we have the demand charge. Saying that we are approaching about $30,000 in demand charges since buying our house. And there's really no good explanation for it because it's not electricity that we're using. It's just really a punishment vig of some sort, and we would like it to go away.
And how long, year-round? You're not year-round, are you?
No.
No.
We come up, over the summer here and there, and other seasons we're up little weekends, little short periods, but we are here from pretty much Thanksgiving, pretty much for the ski season. We're here the entire season.
So that's a lot of money within.
So basically when no one's in the house, like as in all summer, like every month, like the last 3 months, it's been the exact same amount, $354.70. And there's literally no one in the house. The air condition is not on. The water heater is turned off. And, there's just no reason for these charges. My electrical usage is, $150, $200, and we're paying a $354 essentially what is a fine. It's kind of excessive.
May I weigh in?
Yes.
So, thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing.
Sorry,
this.
I wanted to make it sound
No,
okay
this
without,
is a
not to be bitchy or complaining.
And again, to get on the, I introduced myself to you before, but I'm
Yes.
Chris Varkey. I'm the interim department manager, and I've been here for a year, and I realize this is a fundamental problem in terms of the charge. It was designed to deal with people who are like putting electric heat in, like radiant heat, resistor heat in the 70s, and it hasn't been changed since then. We are changing that. We're trying to make adjustments based on a couple of things. The fact that people's increased electric usage might actually be a benefit for everybody. Electric vehicles, other things that could trigger that. And so we're working with the Department of Public Service and the Public Utility Commission to try and address that. I'm sorry you're stuck in this at the moment. We appreciate that you are there. We recognize it is a problem. We can help you try and reduce the things that are triggering this if you want, but the reality is we need to make changes to the tariffs, what we call tariffs, the charges to this stuff in the upcoming year, and it will get better. That's all I can say. I think it'll get better. If it doesn't get better and it gets worse, please let me know. But I do feel like we're going to make improvements to that. But unfortunately, this is a triggering of structures that have been in place and that take a bit to change. So, but most importantly, thank you for commenting and coming here and spending the time to tell us.
So I'm on demand as well. And from what I understand is if you keep it under a certain kilowattage for 11 months,
Right.
is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Then
It
you
will go off
on
it.
demand.
That's hard to do in a seasonal home.
It is hard to do.
That's why this tariff needs to be.
Needs to be
redesigned.
changed, and the reality is, as you said, so if it's any consolation, our chair, we torture her the same way we're torturing you. But if it, unfortunately, it's 12 months, like once you trigger it, it takes 12 months to get off of it, which is also another problem, even if your use
Right,
declines.
so other than telling my guests that come to visit, sorry, you guys have to all take showers at different hours, and you cook at different times. and,
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing.
No, we can't actually measure that at the moment. So we're not telling you, like, tell people to do
Right.
showers at different
Because,
times.
so you're actually not measuring anything.
We're just
Yeah.
measuring
No, you measure your,
monthly,
yeah,
right?
monthly. Based monthly, you get the peak charge is where you
Right.
hit it. We can't tell right now the way we stand hourly. Hopefully, once the new AMI meters go in, you'll be able to tell the time of use, and we'll have a lot better record of when it's getting triggered.
And you'll have a lot better control too. I know in our earlier conversation, it seemed like you were a little concerned about like that automated thing. I'm happy to talk to you more about that, but it's a benefit to both of us to actually do that. And it will enable you to figure out when you're using electricity, what the peak times are, and when to adjust.
But the bottom line is, if I have a large house with a large family and a large number of appliances in my house,
Yeah.
more than likely, I'm gonna continue to trigger it.
Yeah, and that's why
Until
we're
we
trying
change
to
the rate.
Until we change the
Yeah,
tariff.
until we change the
And
rate.
you're looking at
Which we
changing
want
that
to do.
in the year of 2016? When,
N-
is there a
now.
certain date that you're going to be?
Well, you're
doing
working
that?
on it now.
We're working on it now. I won't say it'll be accomplished by the end of this year, but I think definitely during next year. So our goal is to get rid of that.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, not our goal. My desire would be to get rid of that, and I've got to talk with these folks as to whether they agree, but I think there's a lot of rationale for getting rid of that demand.
So
tariff
what's
triggering.
stopping everyone from just voting to get rid of it
Yeah.
right now?
It's not.
Good question. That's a good
lovely.
question.
It goes through
It
the
is.
state.
It goes to the
It's-
state,
This
doesn't go
There's-
to
isn't a
us.
Ludlow thing, this is a
It's-
state of
yeah,
Vermont thing.
Yeah.
this is state
It
of
is and
Vermont
it
thing.
isn't. Yeah, I mean, it is a rate that we have, but to
Okay.
change it, we need to get approval from them. And we are also,
Yeah.
we're in the process of changing our overall rates.
Okay,
And so we're not allowed to make a change to this while we're already changing the rates themselves. And the rates we needed to change because we were operating at a substantial loss income-wise. And so we needed to change our rates overall because that was kind of the priority to get us out of the hole. But then after that process is complete, then we can make fundamental changes to the structure, which would be getting rid of this.
okay.
And it sounded like the PUC, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Sounded like they thought that
Yeah, they don't like this either.
they want that change to
The
happen.
Public Utility Commission, so we're regulated, we are a regulated utility. They don't like this either as a result of kind of how things have changed over the years. And the other thing I would say is amazingly, the first week of October, they're holding like a utility-wide discussion of how rates are structured and who's getting charged what, because they realize that a lot has occurred. So you'll see some changes. They won't be as quick as you want them to be,
Mhm.
but understand we're sensitive to what you're talking about, and we want to improve that too.
I think it's important to know it's not just Ludlow.
Oh, no,
It's
this is statewide. This is a statewide issue.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah.
So every town has their own version of the demand charge, and is it like that, is it the same rate?
No, it's
No.
not the same rate.
No, and it's not each town, it's each utility.
Utility, okay.
Okay, and
There's
there are
two.
21 utilities in the
Okay.
state. 50 of them are kind of us municipal things, but you got Green Mountain Power. They're all doing the same thing, and we will all be going on the 8th of October to the PUC and DPS to hear what they would like to see changed on this. And it's a very important issue, because it's definitely changed from, I want to say, the 70s to 90s to now, right? And really appreciate you coming, and I'm sure that other
Yeah.
Guess
folks
you don't get a
do.
lot of visitors.
Absolutely. No,
Well,
Not lately.
not enough.
well, I think it's
That's a
also
good thing
important
about
to
it.
note that our rate, Ludlow Electric's rate, is much lower than some other rates around the
So it's
state.
still the lowest in the state, so not sure that's much of a consolation, but it is what it is, yeah.
And I really don't mind paying for things that I'm using. It's just
Yeah.
this just feels like it's like a punishment. That's all.
It
Feels
is,
like it,
yeah.
yeah.
It is. That was why it was designed originally.
Yeah,
Because
it
we
was,
didn't want people to use as much electricity at that time. Now we're in a place where we would prefer people to be on electricity and not using propane and, whatever else, heating oil as much, as a society, I think. And so that's what we need to, kind of reconcile.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a penalty. That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
And with, with our rate case change, it will work out, if we lose the on-demand, it will work out to be cheaper.
it should,
Yeah.
yes. I can't promise that at the moment, and, yeah, can't. But that's the goal,
Eventually.
right? The goal is to make this more equitable and more encouraging of the current economics of things, so.
Thank you.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
of course.
coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Thank you. And you might get the record for the most participation of a public comment
Ever?
ever. Like we
Long as
usually,
you've been here.
No,
as long as I've been here,
Not
that's
ever,
true.
no.
Okay, good point. It
Before I
probably
got
would.
on the board, I was in the.
Okay, I take it back. But since I've been here, lovely to see somebody come and participate. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, did we answer enough questions?
thank you.
Okay, absolutely. All right, we'll move on to approval of minutes. The regular meeting Thursday, August 28th, 2025. Special meeting Monday, September 8th, 2025. Special meeting Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. And the special meeting Wednesday, September 17th, 2025.
I will make a motion to approve the slate of minutes as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we need to sign off on those?
Yes, they're all here. Like,
Okay.
we can either
We can
send
do-
them
we can
around or
do
we
it
can do
after.
them afterwards.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Department managers report?
Yeah, so I sent that to you guys yesterday, was it yesterday? And there's a lot going on, so it's a little hard to keep up with, but we've, I think the main, like, the regulatory things that are going on is, we're still continuing with the rate case. We got a response for a relatively minor question from them, and this will be the last round of questions they have. It's about, like, why we, I'm sorry, I gotta shut this off. That's our electrician. That could be bad news, but that's okay. We'll
You want
deal
me to
with
go
it.
take it?
Yeah, you can, if you don't mind. Yeah, I didn't take it, but you can call him back. Thank you.
Is that Scott?
Yep.
Scott, yeah.
Hi, this is Lisa, sorry, Chris is in the board.
All right, so where was I? All right, so we, the PUC, we, because of the pilot project that's going on the electric vehicles, we did withdraw without prejudice our request for the relief on the tariff that Gene was just talking about. So it's going to take a little more time because there's a structure associated with this. We're going to have to go through it. We also, in terms of the rate case, we have one more question to answer, relatively minor. And again, it's kind of about how we decided about gifts among everybody. It's an extremely minor question. You should not worry about that. But they're asking about, like, how did we decide, excuse me, to give employees different benefits, gifts, Christmas gifts, you guys gifts, it's not gonna be an issue, I just need to explain it, gonna get that into them, it'll be fine. And it's an extremely low amount. I mean, they would be concerned if we were like, oh yeah, we gave them trips to Tahiti or something. It's not, this is not anything to worry about, but that's the remaining question that we have. Couple of big things that I think are going on, other than the rate case resolving, is we are structurally finishing up the downstairs file sorting, the stuff that's here, which is relatively small amount. We checked it out last week doing that. We have a ability to bring this to Swanton Shred, Vermont Shred. They will take it without us having to take out staples and paper clips, which would have added 100, tons of stuff. They'll just take it as is. Brett and I have talked about this. I think we'll be ready toward the end of October to either rent a box truck to bring it up or Brett's trailer to bring it up. We'll figure it out. But it's going to be gone by the end of the next month, okay? And when I say gone, I mean everything that is problematic is going to be gone. Everything that is past due for retention is going to be gone. We'll have a very organized system back at the 9 Pond Street office, well labeled. Everything's going to be much better after that, okay?
Did we figure out how long the retention was?
Yeah, there's a policy, and you guys approved a policy.
Right.
It depends.
For everything.
I mean, it's different for whether it's financial records or personnel records or things like that.
Okay.
You guys signed it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that we've had there is well over that, right? I mean, you're 125 years old. There's stuff. And we're trying to be sensitive to things that might just, you could have gotten rid of them, but they're kind of historical interest. So we're saving those too.
Okay.
So that's why it requires
It's
us
an
to
extra
go through
sort,
it.
but yeah,
Yeah.
sounds like
Yeah.
it might be worth it for some of those things.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, there's stuff. We'll share that with you. I mean,
Yeah, that'd be
beautiful,
great. Yeah.
beautiful historical stuff that we should save, and we're trying to be sensitive to that as we sort through it. All right. The only other thing I'll say is we've got the financial audit, systems audit, now scheduled with a new firm. I put it in my report, from South Burlington. They're going to be coming down either next week or the week after. We still have to manage the dates, but thank God it feels like a real commitment. We're going to get this done. And they are very good. They actually are what I would call a forensic audit firm that usually looks for bad things. So I'm really excited about the fact that they're going to come help us look
Good.
to see our systems. I don't expect anything bad to be there, but if there is, they will find it. Okay? I think that's it for me.
Okay. Outside operations manager's report.
Okay, I didn't bring mine. You guys have your copy. If you have any questions on anything, and feel free to.
Oh my God, that's a much better way to deal with this. I'm gonna learn from you.
No, I
I'm
swapped-
gonna learn from you and do that
I
next time.
swapped vehicles and left.
That's
the company.
hysterical, but that is a much better way to deal with this.
So, Chris, just on your report.
Oh, she's back to my report?
Who's going to the meeting with Okemo and Magris?
Yeah, so that will be Brett and me and probably Michael to the extent it's financially related, but it had to be rescheduled.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
but,
just wondered who the staff, who
Yeah.
was going.
yeah, we're all,
Okay.
Brett's gonna, like, a year from now, he's gonna be like, get this person out of my life, because I'm gonna keep inviting him to meetings that he never thought he had to go to. Oh, if I'm still here a year from now, I'm sorry, I should have said that.
I didn't have any other questions on the outside manager's report.
No, not particularly, just on the regs and stuff. We had, what was we had ordered new regs, we had some in stock, we ordered backups.
We have 6 that need to go into 103.
Yeah.
But it's the 248J permit process we gotta go through. That's kind of been the snag of
Yeah.
getting this process moving forward. And that's actually been in the IRP. It was in the IRP for those being replaced.
Yeah,
Just a little off date and schedule of getting them in.
yeah, fair enough.
And we actually are updating the IRP as well, the integrated resource plan. And
Right
so,
now.
right now.
What's the timeline on that?
Can I
Pretty
go
quick.
off record on that? It's overdue. Let me just say
Yeah.
that. It's got to be done imminently.
I mean, those are relatively, like, boilerplate.
Yeah,
They
it
are,
is.
they
Just come
are.
back to update.
It's just, it kind of fell off the radar screen compared to everything else going on. But yeah, it's an update. It's dealing with like replacement of materials, how you're going to deal with resource management, how you're going to deal with
Vegetation.
vegetation management. So it's relatively
I think of it
boilerplate,
as, yeah, I mean, similar to like a town plan and things, but is there opportunity for us to talk more about, just like what we want to do with, what expansion of service might look like, and
Absolutely.
kind of valuing those, putting some of those proposals and things that I feel like are mostly just in Brett's head right now,
yeah, we can do
and putting
that.
them on paper. Is there
Yeah,
room for
we,
that in
we
there?
can do that, and I think, again, I know this is a public meeting, and I get that, and I'm okay with admitting that we are late in getting this done.
Yeah,
Which means two things. One, we're late, and two, take your time to make sure that it's right.
yeah, because it's already
We'll-
late anyway.
Yeah, we'll get it right, and we'll do that.
Does VEPSA help with it? I mean, VEPSA's
Yeah,
supposed
they're
to.
pretty
They
much-
are. They are helping with that. There are some things that we need to do
On our
to
own.
feed into them, so.
I mean, I think about it a lot, like, obviously as somebody that does planning professionally, I think about a lot in those terms. For me, I think these, sometimes we overlook these things, but they are really helpful and useful as a grant writer, just for grants,
Yeah.
because having it in a plan is like gold for a grant application.
I
So I
think
just think about those things, those projects, is like, if we can call them out and mention them and put them on paper, it might help with some grant someday that we're not aware of at the moment, or.
Understood. I appreciate that.
Hi, Sarah.
Sarah, look out. She's always so cheery.
Isn't
looking.
she? A little angel. Okay, review and action on employee handbook revisions. And this is where you come in.
Yay.
Can't
I'm
hear.
cheery because it's raining out here. I don't know about where you guys are.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, it's coming down.
Yeah, we're good.
It's awesome. Yeah. Not enough to get rid of that burn ban, but maybe next year. All right, so we are gonna go over the employee handbook. I don't think, unless you want me to, that you want to go necessarily section by section, but I can kind of like scroll through in case you're like, I really want to talk about this section. There are, I've received some edits from, I think it was a combination of Chris and Lisa. I also received, I think, additional requests, from Jean about defining part-time employee. Maybe some of the previous edits were also at the board's request. I want to flag something and then let you guys decide how you want to proceed. We can go through the handbook. There are some things that when we get to those sections, and you ask questions, the way I would respond, I would be giving you legal counsel. And so that's where we can be in executive session. And so we have, you basically, it's up to you whether we are in executive session or not. When you receive counsel from your attorney, and advising you to write something one way or the other, that really is your call. So do you want to start going through it, and then maybe like the first time I say, I'm going to give you legal counsel, you guys can decide whether you want to make the motion to go into executive session, which still means that you guys can be in there. It just means that the camera gets shut off, public leaves, we talk, and then we come back out of it. So,
Can't believe you don't want to stay.
Sarah, how,
You can leave that.
just approximately,
Leave it open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
how many issues are there like that?
I would say there were maybe 10 sections that I wanted just to flag and say, just so you know, when you're adopting this, this is why you're doing it, and here's what you should know. Probably 5 of them have something where I would give you advice to say, in an employment termination matter, or, when you're dealing with employees of this nature, here's how it works for the benefit of the employer, and here's what the employee would say, which basically is just warning you about future litigation risk.
Yes.
Madam Chair, Sarah, can I, would this process work if we went through and you just basically did whatever edits you think needs to be done, and then flagged like those sections that maybe trigger what you just talked about? And we save those for an executive session, like if there are only 5 of them?
About 5 of them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're not limited to 5. But if that concept works of just like going through and saying, okay, this is one I think we should talk about in executive session, then maybe we could revisit that
Yeah.
after we go through the rest of the document. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay.
Totally. Okay. Then I'm going to just skim through some of these things because, Chris, you made some updates, for example, like to the welcome message, it's now going to be from the board.
Yes.
There's tweaks to the language, so I'm not going to dwell on that. I just accepted a lot of that. The first area that I wrote to flag is that I just want to clarify how this works when you have a collective bargaining agreement and why the language is what it is. My screen looks weird, by the way. Can you guys see me and see everything you need to see?
Yeah.
What page are you on?
We can.
Page 9.
Can
Okay.
you actually just make your word, just increase the zoom a little bit?
Yeah.
Might make it a little bit easier.
But we don't want to lose your smiling face. Oh, that's
No,
great.
that's good.
Yeah, I think that's
great.
perfect.
Good?
Good.
Okay. Great. So there's 2 documents that are governing different groups of your employees. The contract prevails. So everything that's in the contract for your collective bargaining unit, that will work for everybody there. So if there's a difference between what's in the contract and what's in this, the contract will prevail, unless you decide that you don't want to enforce it. I'll say in one instance that we get down to later on, there's a difference of a 10-minute breaks are what was used in the contract language, 15-minute breaks are, that's the language that's used in the handbook. That doesn't mean that you can't allow people to take 15-minute breaks if you want. It's just that under the contract, they're only entitled to 10-minute breaks unless and until you change that in the next round of negotiation. So I just wanted to flag that if this language around scope and application is carefully crafted because of that. So that everyone knows there is this contract, and if you are a member of the bargaining unit, you're going to go to your contract first, and if it's silent as to a term, then you're going to go to the employee handbook. There's a lot in the employee handbook that doesn't really have to do with wages and conditions of work, which is really what the contract is focused on. And my expectation, having been through the last round of negotiations with the union, is that they're not really that interested in making the contract be the place where all of these other policies also live. They would rather just kind of keep the contract bare bones. So that may change over time, but that gives utility to the handbook.
Yeah, and if I may just say, that is kind of how I interpreted the need to revise the handbook. That, you know, the contract was a contract, the handbook's a handbook. I want them to be consistent, or at least the ability to be, you know, managed together. But it wasn't, and I agree with you, it wasn't the expectation that the handbook reiterated everything in the contract, or that the contract had to be limited to just a contract. Employees are subject to the handbook to the extent it's not overruled by the contract. Is that
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And in terms of timing, you're up for negotiation again by the end of this year. And so some of the things that are a little bit the same or a little bit different between the two, you can still adopt something that's different right now with this handbook. And then make note of that, and that can be part of, you know, the group's discussion. And I won't go anymore into talking about negotiation, because we should do that in executive session. But the overarching point that there are some slight differences, I'm not going to point those out today, but those are things that can be pointed out and can be handed over to the negotiating team to consider whether or not those are some of the initial changes that you want to offer for the contract. I also just want to talk about at-will employment. So at-will employment, just so everybody knows, at-will means that you can, that you're not under an obligation to continue your employment relationship. You know, neither side is. The contract alters that somewhat, because there are terms in those contracts that determine how people become unemployed, you know, how they separate, you know, mainly termination, and what the terms of termination would look like. This handbook also sets forth some disciplinary expectations, but what we will continue to assert is that this handbook is not a contract. So the at-will status for employees is not changed if they're not under a collective bargaining unit, you know, agreement. Just because you aren't under a contract, and just because you're at will, doesn't mean that government employers don't have to go through any due process in the case of a termination. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows that, you know, let's hope it doesn't come to that, but should there be a termination that you are needing to navigate, you and I will be in touch, or Chris and I will be in touch, Chris and Brett and I will be in touch about the other obligations you have to provide due process rights, either before termination or after the person's been terminated. So that's just, I just wanted, when I wrote to discuss, it was just mainly to make the point that you still do have to go through some process at termination. It's not just like, hey, don't come in tomorrow.
Right.
And the amount of due process depends on the situation. So I'm not going to write it in here. I have seen handbooks where it's kind of written in and there are promises. And usually what happens is they put in a whole lot of extra rights for people to, you know, make their case for not being fired, or to come back and appeal a decision to be fired. But that would, you know, that usually means that you have to abide by that, even if that certain situation doesn't necessarily require that degree of due process.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Okay.
just Sarah, so one thing this is an example where in terms of disciplinary action and termination, that I actually felt the union contract provided a better structure than our existing manual, so.
Well, you mentioned that, and so in this version, I've brought them together. So when we get to
Cool.
that section, I'll show you where I took from the union contract and mirrored that more. 'cause
Yeah, thanks. I tried to do the same. I mean, it seemed very straightforward, verbal, one written, repair, check in to see if you're doing it, or dismissal. So that felt very straightforward to me, and I felt like it could be consistent across for all the employees. Sarah, I think,
Yes.
and maybe this is not, ultimately, I think what we want to get to is where the board feels comfortable, they have a text version they might be able to approve or amend. So I want to make sure that if you have actual, the concepts are great, we should talk about them, but if there's verbiage that should be changed or adjusted, either here or in executive session, I hope we could do that. That's it.
Yep. The version that you all received in your email is the updated language that I would, I don't think tonight is the night to approve unless you really want to push it, but I'd have to take off, draft and put on a couple of things, and I want some feedback, at least in executive session, on one section. But yes, absolutely, and I will get to those few sections where I want to make sure my wordsmithing aligns with your policy choices. I'll go through a couple other of the higher level pieces. So you're aware, anti-discrimination, anti-harassment, prohibitions on sexual harassment. They all should have the same reporting policy. And so there was some recommended language here in an initial draft. I just want to flag that when you do have complaints, for the purposes of the two people who are the named recipients of those complaints, Chris and Lisa, and then also the board chair, should either of those folks be available. It's easier if for every type of complaint of this nature, the process is the same. So I've made the language the same for all of these pieces.
Okay.
We can skip quite a bit here because I've accepted changes and there wasn't much here. Employee contact info. Previously, I had said that employees are expected to keep contact info on file, including their home address. The feedback was that you didn't like that it was the home address. I do think it's important that you keep a mailing address, though, because if an employee does separate and you need to be in contact and you have to provide last known address, you have that information. So I just wanted to say that that's why I thought you needed some personal information, but we cannot make it their home address and just refer to it as their mailing address. So again, I'm just kind of flagging the stuff that I didn't necessarily accept your changes on and explaining why. Okay. I'm going to come back. Let me flag where we are right now. Right now, we're on the section that begins on page 17, and it's Code of Conduct and Ethics. And this is one that I'll come back to in a brief executive session. Attendance and punctuality. Here, there was a suggestion to write out again how much notice everyone needs to give for PTO or for sick leave. I just wrote to discuss because I didn't accept those changes because within the sick leave and the PTO policies, those requirements are written there. So it would be redundant to put them here as well. But again, if you really feel strongly, I'll go back. I just want to make sure that it's the exact same language because the policies, the suggested language wasn't exactly the same and it could have caused some confusion.
I'm sorry, are you referring to the difference between this and the contract and the IBEW contract, or is there something else?
No, so later on in this contract, there's a section on sick leave and there's a section on paid time off.
Right.
And within those sections, it says how you use it, that you have to give 2 weeks notice or, call in an hour before your shift starts, let your supervisor know as soon as you can, whatever the language is, it's in those sections. The reason I was hesitant to just say like, all right, let's put it here is because those sections do mirror the contract.
Gotcha.
And for that reason, I wanted to make sure that there was never any confusion like, oh, when that person is sick, they have to call in this method, but when this person is sick, they have to call in that method. So for now, the methods of using your sick time or using your PTO are exactly the same, and it's more efficient just to keep the method of use in those two sections about use of leave.
Maybe if you don't mind, one moment, Madam Chair. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, one of the issues that I found in reviewing this 50-page document is a lot of stuff was repeated in different ways throughout the document, and I definitely wanted to consolidate that.
Yeah.
This one, maybe this could be, if we got other places where this is applied, maybe this could be eliminated entirely. I was trying to consolidate
Yes.
and make sure these things are consistent, so.
Yes. So
And then-
that's what yes, to your point, and you had told me that too, to look through it with an eye toward eliminating redundancies. And in this case, I took it out because my point is it would have been redundant because it is mentioned elsewhere.
Thank you. Okay, I just want to make sure that,
Yep.
and see if the board feels amenable to that, because, right, things can be stated slightly differently in different areas, and they were. Even though they might not have been inconsistent, it was resulting in probably the inability to understand what you were actually saying.
Yeah.
And, I gotta say that most of the employee handbooks I've seen are 25 pages or less. This one's 50 or something, so 47 at the moment.
They're getting a lot longer these days.
I understand,
Ones
and
that
I
I've been
understand.
working on are a lot longer, and your government, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right, I don't want to
Yeah.
spend more time on that, other than to say, the goal I had when I was doing this was to try and consolidate stuff without causing a problem. So thank you, Sarah, for continuing that.
So, Sarah, I just have it's not really a question, but to be clear, where it talks about attendance and it says specifically, shall work in accordance with the established hours of the department and their position. So, would it be in the job description where someone's hours or expected hours would be noted?
So it sounds like employees across the department don't have uniform schedules. And, that's A-okay, it happens a lot. So the typical way to do this is you could put it in a job description, but that's also not that efficient. The best way to do it is when you have a new employee, you sit down with them and you say, all right, you are expected to be at work at 6:30 and you can leave at 2:30. And you would memorialize that, in an email, throw an copy of the email in the file, just so everybody knows, as long as it's written down and supervisor to employee said it, it's there. That also allows for the exercise of some of the other new Vermont legal rights around being able to ask for a flexible schedule. So you're now allowed to say, hey, my schedule's 6:30 to 2:30, but my kid's care has changed and I need 8:30 to 5:30. And a supervisor can say, yes, this is something we can accommodate with our business needs. And again, we're just writing it down in an email or in a piece of paper, throw it in the file so that everybody knows it. So you're right, Jean, that this does need to be documented, but it can be as fluid as simply a communication between employee and supervisor, so long as it's, written down so it can be enforced.
Okay.
It is important here, and if we need to talk about it more, we can come back to it in executive session, but it is important to make sure that employees understand that you can't be absent without permission. So, you can grant it after the fact, if like, oh my gosh, there was an emergency, I came across an accident and I couldn't call because I was trying to save someone's life. Okay, I'm sure you guys can,
No, that
supervisors
seems
can make-
totally unreasonable. I'm sorry.
You can make accommodations, but when it does come time to start enforcing with discipline, you need to be clear about what your expectation is for at least showing up for work, and express about the need for permission to get it before you're absent rather than after. Okay, so conflicts of interest. I didn't accept all of the proposed changes, but I did include what I could see was an interest in making sure that we've accounted for the appearance of a conflict, and then the words potential conflict were also used. Conflicts of interest, first, you all need to maybe remember that for municipal officers, you are all municipal officers, meaning you guys, are under the Municipal Code of Ethics that has specific definitions around conflicts of interest and the perception of conflicts of interest that pertain to you. Having this in a handbook is a little bit different, but I try to mirror a lot of the same language around the definition of a conflict of interest, so that you're not going back and forth between using very slightly different definitions. So the changes here are that I did include that a conflict of interest includes the appearance of a conflict of interest, and did agree that it was fine, whoever recommended the definition here of what an appearance of a conflict of interest is, that was fine. It's not necessarily inconsistent with other Vermont sources. I took out references to a potential conflict of interest, because there really is, as a general matter, a potential, either a conflict is a conflict or it isn't a conflict. And a potential conflict may come up in requirements to have conversations about transparency in, other jobs that you might have. And again, it may sound weird, but a potential conflict is something you talk about, but a conflict either it is or it isn't. It either falls under the definition or it doesn't of either an appearance or a conflict. So I didn't want to confuse by trying to support the notion that there are three things here: a conflict, a potential, and
Appearance.
An appearance, yeah. So
Right.
this, just as a policy measure, this governs conflicts and the appearance of a conflict, and it describes what you must do and how you must disclose these situations. I did, however, still say here, which I think gets at what maybe you were trying to grapple with, that employees have to disclose any situation that could present a conflict of interest. So, before an employee starts doing something and it does become a conflict of interest and they all of a sudden have to step back, they have an affirmative duty to say, hey, before I do this thing that is then going to interfere with the performance of my duties and my job, because it will become a conflict, I have to disclose it to you. And then, you can have conversations about, no, don't do that because you're not allowed to have conflicts of interest. And if you do that and you're unable to perform your job because you've intentionally made a conflict, then we're talking about discipline. Does that make sense?
It does to me. The only thing I want to just say is, so what we're trying to do without punitive things, we're trying to encourage employees to disclose those situations, which may, I would say may rather than, well, could and may. You're a legal scholar. Maybe those are the same things. But I don't want people to feel like if they do disclose those things, that there's either a problem or they're relieved of any responsibility. Should there be some sort of response to this?
Meaning from management?
Yes, from management. Should there be a response to a presentation of some kind? And maybe that's implied here, it's
Yep.
fine.
Well, I think it's implied, because if you're going to disclose it, I would think as a supervisor, you would say, let me respond to that. But I certainly could, I don't see any problem with putting in a sentence that say, supervisors shall indicate whether any situation disclosed might become problematic. I mean, if you want, I can put a sentence in there that.
The more you describe it, the more I think it's not necessary, actually.
Okay.
Just for me, I don't know how the rest of you feel, but it seems like it will be more.
I think if it's implied.
It will become more complicated, but thank you, sorry about that.
Yep. There were some changes to nepotism. I thought they were good. I didn't really have any. I had one change to outside employment, but I think I want to talk with you about that in executive session. So I'll keep going. Oh, I want to be clear. You changed one thing that I had originally put in there, or you clarified something, and I want to make sure you know you're making a policy choice around it. And that is for volunteer work, which usually from municipal handbooks that I've done, municipalities go both ways. They either say, if you're on a rescue squad or a local fire department, usually it's when they're the volunteer fire department and volunteer rescue squads, that you can respond to local calls and basically, just leave your job if you're not, if you can reasonably believe that you're not, I have language for it, but it's like reasonably believe that you're not leaving anyone hanging. If it is possible and it doesn't have any undue burden on others in your workplace, you can leave your job to go respond to a call. Here, it will be the policy of Ludlow that it's expected that PTO time would be used for volunteer duties during the normal work hours. As long as the department doesn't require you to be available for work. So I'll leave it there, and you guys either can discuss it now, but I at least wanted to flag that to you so that you are aware that that's going to be the policy unless you want to revisit that.
May I explain a little bit about
Yeah.
why I made those changes? Obviously, emergency, response is one thing, right? It's like, okay, go, take care of people and fire, rescue, things like that. But I was trying to broaden this in terms of volunteer work, of thinking about people who might work in a food shelf or might want to, I don't know, there's a ton of different things that people could do that are not emergency related, where we probably should be able to get some notice and be able to respond.
Yep.
But I don't want to make it more complicated than it is. And I also do think, the emergency thing, if somebody signed up as a volunteer fire thing, as a manager, I would expect that, there may be times when they just go, right? And it's understood in the terms of which they go. But if you're volunteering for a food shelf where there's a standard level of, or standard schedule, that we can approve in advance, that would also be appreciated, that we should be able to do that. So it's trying to accommodate both of those. Sarah, I don't know if you feel like it succeeded in that or not.
If it's the board's desire to exempt emergency calls for some or all of the time, you could limit it to 2 hours or, whatever it may be. If it's your desire to say, you know what, we want people to do that, I can tweak this a little bit to make it just specific to, you don't have to use PTO, so long as you're able to leave your duty station. But if you want to be just consistent across the board, I would leave it as you've edited it, Chris, and just say, okay, no, yes, you can leave because what it says now is you have the flexibility as managers to know if you have an employee who's a volunteer, first responder, and you can pre-authorize them. I would certainly have them write it down in an email saying, we've had this discussion, you are authorized to leave, or shoot me a quick text. Whatever the system is that you've worked out, you can do that on a case by case. And what this says is that so long as you're not specifically required to be at an assigned workplace, then you can respond to volunteer emergency calls and duties. And that would just be on a case by case basis. Still in that instance, you'd be using PTO for the time you're away. So if you want to change that and carve it out, we can also do that.
So
anyone else that's not responded for volunteer, like for our emergency call, would have to get pre-authorization, for a green up day or whatever it may be.
yeah. Just to clarify, my thinking on this was that I think everybody should have to use PTO. It's more of a scheduling and notice thing, as you just described, Sarah, because I feel like it would be unfair to, unless you're going to sponsor certain volunteer work, it would be unfair to not require them to use the standard PTO stuff for what they choose to do. That's just me. You guys, these are one of many policy decisions you all are entitled to make and should make.
So what's the board's thinking on this?
I like it the way it's written. I think, I can see situations where it might be abused. I think we have a relatively generous PTO policy and, giving people, sort of forcing them to use their PTO in these situations may help be a check on that and stop that from being abused in a way.
And it's a case-by-case basis,
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
so I like how it's worded as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Just because receipt of gifts is right up on my screen, a lot of these trainings I've been doing lately, I'm just reminding people as Christmas comes, don't forget that in public service, you often do receive gifts of, turkeys or hams or cookies. But just remember that as you adopt a receipt of gifts policy, it really is a good idea that you enforce it. I mean, it's a really good idea to have one, because this is where it becomes slippery slope, embezzlement, favoritism. You are government, so make sure that if this policy is, to your satisfaction, and I would urge that it is, that you make sure that you require people to report any gift of substantive value, so that your supervisors and management can determine whether or not there's a perception that government is in a place to provide favoritism.
Can I ask a question which I was struggling with here, Sarah? What is substantive value? Should we establish a dollar amount?
You can.
Then we're
You
gonna
can
have
do
to
it now.
change
You
it.
can do it later. If you do a dollar amount, you have to change it. If as inflation.
Well, what's
takes
your, I
hold,
mean,
but
so
you can.
how do other folks deal with that? I mean, it's sort of like, if somebody buys you dinner, I don't consider that to be like crazy.
Yeah.
If somebody buys
was a-
you a
there was a-
car, that would be a problem, right?
Yeah, there was a road crew matter last Christmas where someone drop by and put into the freezer probably about $75 to $100 worth of meat for each of the guys. We're just about to start plowing, and the person who had all good intentions of saying, you guys work hard, you know, I think there was some question of whether their road was gonna get plowed first that season. Obviously, you know, it was not ever intended as a quid pro quo, but the value of meat, you know, coming from a family of butchers, you know, what I think of as $25 in meat seems to me like a lot of meat, but nowadays it's just like 15 pounds of hamburger, and that seems like nothing.
Right.
So I don't know, $25, $50, it kind of depends on what kinds
It's
of
up
gifts
to
you
you guys
get.
whether you want to establish a dollar amount. Look, if somebody's gonna put the meat thing, like, as long as it wasn't, well, I don't know, there's a value to like providing, like, could they put relatives in there? Or like, does it have to be like beef, pork, chicken, or could it be like relatives? Because- I'm sorry.
Well, I think you could stay, you know, within reason up to,
Yeah, pick a number.
Like,
You
there's
guys
a
are-
couple people that drop off boxes of chocolates and, like, at the office. That's the only thing that I can really
Right,
think
it's
of.
usually very
Yeah.
minor and,
Like $30 or more, $50.
If we're talking about just like this, the reporting threshold, when it doesn't happen, do we need to say substantive value?
Yeah, but what's your substantial value?
No, I'm just saying, maybe we just
Right.
remove substantive value. Is that
Yeah, and just
gonna
say
create a
any gift
burden of,
of,
yeah, I mean, any gift
you could say
should
any
be
gift.
reported?
well, if somebody gets, like, okay, here's a good example, poor Beth. A lovely employee, she brings us food, she brings us baked goods, she brought me
A piece
it's
of
not
bread
this
today.
mug, she brought me a piece of bread today, but she brought me a mug that says chickens, because she knew I had chicken. I was like, okay, that's internal, right? But it's similar, it's like, what,
Mhm.
Well, I mean, the threshold here is just that has to be reported to the supervisor. It's
then I'm the
reported to the
supervisor, I say,
supervisor.
okay, great, gifts,
So it's
but.
not,
Well, and the
you're just
example
have
that
the
you're
opportunity.
using, if you felt it was over the top or
Yeah.
not appropriate, you would say so, I would hope.
Yeah, and I'm managing that a little bit because I'm like, she's so gracious and generous, and yet I'm a little uncomfortable, truthfully.
So, but
I
you
gotta
can,
deal
you
with
can handle
But
that.
yes,
I
but
think
the external
it-
stuff is
it's the
similar.
external.
Yes.
Stuff.
What about, instead of saying of substantive value, just say more than a de minimis value? And basically what that would mean is, you know, that would be in the eyes of a reasonable person, you know, so maybe ask a couple of you and say, if it's more than de minimis, we gotta report it. But if a couple of people around the office think a coffee mug is like, that's de minimis, then you're fine.
Yeah.
I think that works.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what
Is that
I'm
okay?
getting at,
yeah.
And remember, it's in connection with employment.
Yes.
So, okay. All right, moving on. Just a clarifying piece. Actually, I'm gonna put this one on the executive. We talk about overtime in executive session.
Mhm.
Listen.
I'm gonna explain this one, compensation time, and then we're gonna, and then I'm gonna ask you about some policy choices in executive session. But let me just go over what compensatory time is, or comp time is, because it's often confused. So first of all,
Sarah, I've already
only-
warned them that I've had this backwards for 30 years, so go
Okay.
for it.
so comp time is private employers are not, under federal labor law, are not allowed to offer comp time. Only government employers can offer comp time. Only hourly workers are eligible for comp time. So if you're a salaried employee, comp time doesn't apply to you. The concept of comp time is a way for public service government employees. Initially, it was like for police, fire, rescue, people who might be working a lot of overtime and unexpected, not unlike utility workers. So this is why I think it could apply in your situation. And what would happen is the employer would say, wow, this is a lot of money I'm having to pay you in overtime. And the employee's like, I would rather have more vacation time or to take next week off, because it's unlikely that we're gonna have 7 fires in 1 week. Or it might be a time just after there's a storm and the weather outlook for the next 2 weeks is good. And it is a win. Comp time is looked at as a win-win, where you can mitigate overtime costs by allowing an employee to have what was otherwise not earned PTO. Comp time has to be guided by a policy, because if it isn't, then you could be subject to some scrutiny as to whether you're following wage and hour laws. If you don't have comp time and you don't have a policy that determines when they can use it and if there's a maximum amount they can earn, then you by default must always pay overtime, and you have to pay it in the pay period in which it's earned. Comp time, another final aspect of comp time that I just want to make you aware of, is that you must pay comp time if it is not used. So you'll see here that one option with a policy would be to say you can only have up to 80 hours of comp time. And if you don't use it in 1 year, then the department is going to pay it out. When comp time is paid out, it has to be paid at the overtime rate that's in effect at the time it's paid, not when it's earned. So, so whether or not you have comp time is a policy choice of yours. If you don't have it, you will always pay overtime based on how it was earned and the time frame which you're legally obligated to pay it. And PTO, paid time off, will be either by this handbook or by the contract. And your opportunity to give employees more or less just because they've worked a lot of overtime can't be balanced on the ad hoc on the go.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of talking about the policy choices about comp time, I just want to ask if there are any questions about what comp time is.
Do we
Okay.
use comp time now?
Not properly and not a lot.
Okay.
What I guess I would say is I would defer to Brett, is this a useful thing? Because otherwise, my recommendation would be to eliminate comp.
That was gonna be my suggestion.
Stop. No, we're not getting into policy discussion quite yet, because I'll say more about when you decide your policy choices.
In the executive session? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Pretend I didn't say that then.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more, yeah.
But I think now that I know it applies to hourly employees, it's more of a Brett and union it feels like more of a Brett and union thing than it does in-office thing.
It can't apply to salaried employees? I mean, that's where it feels like it might.
It does, that's what you're right, that's where I'm feeling.
That's where it feels like it'd be more useful. We have comp time in my office, and it's
because
anything
salaried
over 40
employees-
hours.
Yeah, salaried employees already, by being salaried, means that you can work 50 hours 1 week and you can work 20 hours the next week.
Right.
Yeah.
So you already have the concept of comp time worked into your salary, because federal wage laws don't track it the same way. That's why you have to meet the test. Not everybody can be salary, so you have to meet a specific test for whether your position is eligible to be a salaried position.
So, I guess without going into any more detail, Logan, I would say psychologically, I'm aligned with what you're saying, and it feels like, yeah, I'm learning something today.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
So, I think Jean had asked that we be clear about our definition for full-time versus part-time workers. I tweaked some language that was offered to me, and there are some policy choices in this. So, what I understood from the suggestion is that generally, your view, or at least the view that we're going to discuss, is that full-time employees are those that are working over 40 hours a week, and part-time employees are those who are, what I wrote is, are regularly scheduled to work less than 40. The important part in saying whether someone's part-time or full-time should be based on what they're scheduled to work and not what they actually work. Because that's how you sort of, you can't, otherwise you're in a position where you're making benefits determinations, maybe on a month-by-month basis. People take vacations or have long-term leave. That kind of messes it all up. So full-time and part-time employment usually is about what a position is required in terms of their hourly obligation on a regularly scheduled basis. You can make decisions about who gets benefit. I think the key thing here is what you're probably getting at is when you define part-time employee, you're probably wondering, is there a standard definition for that? And there isn't. I've seen part-time employees at 35 hours or less, 32 hours, 30 hours, 25, and even 18 as part-time employees. So you can choose whatever you want here. I think as I review all of your policies, it doesn't really have a lot of, there's not a lot of implication with your policies, because any policy where you are less than full-time, you're prorating them anyway. So whether or not you call someone part-time at 35 hours or 32 hours, basically, so long as they're not full-time, the benefits that are prorated are just prorated based on that person's specific employment status.
May I
Does
ask?
that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but can I ask a question about that? So, so there is nothing in labor law that says above a certain amount of hours you have to offer benefits, and below a certain number of hours you don't have to. It's all prorated. That's beautiful. That's
Or not at all. It's all, I would say, discretionary. There were laws back in 2010 around the Affordable Care Act, and Vermont mirrored that, where that was the one area where we did tie healthcare benefits, and I think it was to 30 hours was the threshold where you had to offer after 30. All of those required provisions have largely been repealed, so they don't apply in this situation. You can decide, it's your decision, to offer benefits or to not, and when offering benefits, you can decide to whom they apply. VEMRS is a benefit that is offered to municipal employees if you've decided that you're going to participate, and it, as a program, has its own rules. So you won't be able to change that based on your own policy. It's part of your, and I forget what the hour was, if it was 30
It's
or 20, I think it's 25.
Yeah, 24.
24, yeah.
which then.
So 20,
Which is exactly, yeah, so it's not necessarily the board can decide what they want to do, but then the benefits they're offering may have also controls or contingencies or policies that affect this. Do we have an obligation to let employees know what those are?
yes. When you bring in and this is, rather than defining every single position and saying whether they're benefit eligible or not, if you wanted to provide me with that information and see if I could work it in here, we can do that. But I think the default, and this is usually the default for most municipal cases, is that when an employee is offered a job, and then when they accept a job, you're having those benefit conversations. So when you advertise it, you would say this is a full-time job and it has these benefits. And then the day they show up for work, if you've agreed to hire them, but then you've changed the conditions of work, like, well, we wanted you to work full-time, but we've agreed that we're gonna hire you for 3 days a week. So now, when your conditions of work will now be this salary at 3 days a week and prorated benefits for these categories, that's what you would put into your either offer letter or somehow, Lisa or you would memorialize that in writing on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
Okay. Sense?
Yep.
All right. I made the change for probationary period from 9 months to 6 months. That is more in line with what's standard. Office closings. Okay. So you already have provisions. I think you already have a construct for working during emergencies and such in the collective bargaining agreement. So I'm not really going to touch. I'm not going to really touch that. What I've offered back to you is, I recognize that you may say, and I will stop us at some point if we need to talk about some of this in executive session. But what you basically said here is, we acknowledge that, an office may become too hot or too cold or flooded or moldy or, whatever it may be. And that we're gonna close the physical space. Usually that's just called, a closing of the duty station. A person's job may still be able to be done at home or at a different duty station, or let's just say it's the case of a broken heater, and it turns out that the town or village office has a couple of cubicles where your employees can go and work for a couple of days. And you may want to reserve the right to say, yes, your duty station is closed, but we're directing you to work elsewhere, so that you don't lose those employees for those days of work, if that's the business's need. What I took out of here were some, I think, opportunities for people to get nitpicky about.
Not that we would ever do that, yeah.
About you not following your own policy around office closings. So what this now says is that the department manager may close one or more of the department buildings. What I took out, but you could do and put back in, was that you will do it in consultation with Brett.
Right.
However, I'm assuming that if it's Brett's outside operations building, it's going to be in consultation with him anyway, because he's going to be the one to call you and say, we have a broken pipe.
It's a little more subtle than that, Sarah, and maybe
Okay.
this will become not an issue, but truthfully, if I, as department manager, are not available, Brett is in the best position to decide the weather conditions and issues as to whether the office should close. And that not only includes, it includes the internal office, but also his folks. And frankly, the more he has to work, probably the less it's going to be possible for the office people to work, right? Because of snow or ice or whatever. So all I was trying to get at was in the absence of the department manager, don't need to say that, I think I like what you just said, the department manager or the outside operations manager or their designee, yeah. Because this has happened a couple of times where people have felt the road conditions were not ideal for the internal office, and yet, Brett and his crew were working. He would know best And I wanna be able to make that into his thing, if the board is amenable to that, right? To be able to have his judgment guide that.
So so that this does that. You will want to make sure that you're not in a position where some employees are getting the benefit of a snow day when others aren't.
Correct.
And so one of the ways to protect from that is for when you do close the office, hold for yourselves the opportunity to still reassign those individuals to a different duty station, or say work from home. And not necessarily, because that way you may have the ability to have some people work from home if their jobs are suitable for that, or you can give them some assignments for that day that they can work on. And it kind of keeps employees treated equally. That,
You might be in trouble.
you know, some people may still have to report because there's work to do and they're gonna be in trucks and not a building. Like if it's a mobile issue versus a temperature issue. So that's what I kind of wanted just to discuss with you, and not holding yourselves to needing to tell them, you know, an hour before the, you yourselves can just determine that you're going to tell them as soon as you can, and you're going to aim to do that an hour before they leave for work. But the problem is if you don't, and you routinely and consistently don't, you're going to have employees saying, hey, you know, I got up, I got halfway in here, and then you told me, and now I have a grievance against you.
So for
so
the
it's
benefit
better
of the board, just to clarify, so in the draft that we last did and I sent to you, it had like temperatures, like closure, it had temperatures, it had, we're gonna do our best to notify you by 6:30 in the morning in the event of a full office closure. And Sarah, it sounds like you're suggesting we eliminate all that and make it much more kind of broad.
Yeah, like
and-
just do it.
Yeah.
I
Just
think
do
if
it and
the-
do it right.
I think if the office was gonna close or the shop was gonna close, it would be extreme. I mean,
Right.
I wouldn't think that it would be something that would come up every snowstorm or when it's raining. So
Right.
I think you just
One would think,
make that
although,
call.
but I would say that in my year experience and not when I was here, it was closed when I would not have closed the office.
Right.
That's all that's all
So
I'll say.
hopefully this takes care of that.
I
and-
agree.
And
Yeah.
with a different structure.
Right.
Because, I mean, I just think to close an office or building that's right in the village, it would have to be an extreme storm or condition to close the office. That's my take.
And everyone has more than enough PTO if they don't feel safe driving, that they can stay home without us having to pay them, basically.
Close the whole office.
Yes.
I agree.
Technically shouldn't be any different responding to emergency calls. If
Yeah.
Somebody wants to
Right.
do that.
Right.
Take PTO time for it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that makes sense.
All right, well, that was kind of the genesis of this whole thing,
Just don't
but
punish
I
them.
appreciate
You don't
Sarah's.
penalize them.
No, no,
If
right.
they decide to take a day because they
Right.
don't feel comfortable driving in, it is what it is.
No, it does seem at different times, like V-Trans has a different approach to
Everybody's
snowstorms
coming in
lately.
different territories
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
Yep.
travel.
And you do have a flexible, you have the opportunity to always ask your supervisor, like, hey, can I come in at 10 and then on Friday work till 6? You know, if you really don't want to use your PTO, you can at least ask. And you guys do have the authority to do those sorts of things if you feel it's prudent.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was recommended that I take out this sentence in the HRA about how HRA can be used.
Yeah.
And I decided not to take it out because my experience with HRAs is that the employer makes a determination about what the HRA can be used for, and it's sort of set up in the healthcare system. And the employees, you know, and some employers, like mine, you know, I can use it for deductible, I can use it very generously, and it appears you can as well. I just wanted to flag that the decision about how to use what you can use your HRA for is made by the employer on an annual basis. And you can just take this out of here, but I wanted you to know that employees do need to know and they need notice, and you're gonna need to make that decision. And so, I'm happy to take it out, but it will have to be consistent with all employees and all of their uses of their HRAs. Does that make sense?
May I ask?
What I propose is that we just say a complete
Delete
listing
that.
of eligible expenses.
Yeah, may I ask, in the
Yeah.
first sentence, for all employees under the age of 65 who are enrolled in Department of Insurance, this money can be used to pay any qualified medical expense covered by the HRA program. Is that a definition we need to do, or is that a federal definition or some other definition?
That's a federal definition.
Then I think we don't need anything else.
I'm
Like-
sorry.
Like, in other words,
Um,
the sentence that you have
What about,
highlighted can be deleted, right? Because,
So it can be used to pay for any qualified medical expense covered by the HRA program, but employers then get to choose which of those qualified medical expenses they can use the money for.
who wants to be in charge of that?
so I believe ours is already set.
Yep, usually it is.
And
You set it, and then you just don't have to necessarily keep changing it. The reason employers sometimes change it is because when employees, if you restrict the amount of things you can use them for, like, say you can't use them for Band-Aids or cold medicine or, things like that, then employees use less of their HRA. And at the end of every year, unused HRA amounts roll back to the employer. HSA money stays with the employee. So if I use only $1,000 because I only, I didn't get my contact lens filled that year, I didn't have a lot of prescription or co-pays or anything like that, then at the end of the year, Ludlow would get $2,050, and they can then add it to next year's allotment that they've decided everyone's going to get for the HRA. So that's why employers get to choose those things. And I just wanted to make sure that as you're approving these policies, you understand how they work.
The other question I have is, so we have an employee who is 67, but still under our insurance, and they also get the HRA allotment. Is that,
Okay.
should that
So-
not?
Is
Maybe
that
we
not
should
supposed to
talk-
happen? Right.
Well, I don't know, because it depends on, maybe we talk with your healthcare plan to make sure, because usually what happens is once you're 65, you go on Medicare.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Better than any other
And then the
health
employee's not, the employee, of course, the employer's plan is generous. So that's why you would want to stay on it. So maybe we talk about,
It seems like the concept is the HRA is for anybody up to that point, but once you're into Medicare, there's no point
So-
in the employer doing that.
I guess, can we talk about this during executive session, just because?
yep,
Yeah.
perfect.
Okay.
And I know it's getting, the time is pressing on, so I will try to see.
Well, it is a 47-page document, so I get that.
In general, I mean, HRA accounts, most of my experience with them, they're usually structured around like meeting the gap between the out-of-pocket max of the health insurance plan, and where is this in relation to our current health insurance plan?
Well, that's a confusion I have, because maybe I'm thinking of HRAs as HSAs, where the employee is putting aside money
Yeah.
pre-tax.
No.
Yeah,
So-
that doesn't
Different.
happen with this.
We-
So I can't help you with that.
Oh.
So
See if
the
Lisa-
company puts all of the money aside. Michael tells me that we have never had an employee use everything for their everything out of their HRA, so the company does get a large portion of it back. We are currently transitioning to a different HRA company. Hello Further is what we currently have, and it's transferring to a different company, and I just had to fill out all of the paperwork
Health equity,
for, health equity.
health equity is, yeah,
Yep.
that's the one I use.
And, the only thing that it asked about for allowing was, like, it needed me to fill out, like, what all of our co-pays were, but it didn't ask about what else we wanted the HRA to be covered. Or what else we wanted to be allowed to be purchased with that. Like, it's just, right now, I think it's just like the standard stuff, that if it's allowed under an HSA, then it's allowed under our plan. currently.
Probably not. No, HSAs are very, you can basically use them for anything. HRAs are generally pretty restricted
Yeah,
unless
and
you have opened it up for
I
everything. but-
think whoever was managing it prior kind of
Made
Did
it much
everything.
made it
broad.
very broad.
That sounds like what's happened, and I frankly,
I
I
would
don't know.
like to maybe,
So it sounds like a policy discussion we should discuss
It does.
further. My,
definitely.
I mean,
Yes.
my, yeah, inclination is that the way that my experience with HRAs in the past is generally that you structure them and value them around the out-of-pocket maximum for your, the health insurance plan that you offer, sort of to meet the gap, or to, if you still want there to be a gap between them, that's a policy choice too, that is made. And that there may still be some out-of-pocket from the employee, or not. But there's not usually much, you're not putting other,
yeah,
because they still can be used for things that
Right,
are
so
not deductibles.
This is exactly the type of discussion we should have, and whether you
Well, we're
guys,
coming back to this in
yeah, you
executive session.
guys may
so-
feel like we're not gonna, I mean, you may, all I can say is, it seems like there are enough variables here that it may require more discussion than we're ready
Yeah, an
to
actual
deal with
policy
tonight.
discussion.
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
you.
You're aware, because we've talked about it recently, that you have this year of service benefit upon retirement. So the one change that was offered here was about, previously the policy had stated that this was for employees who have actively participated in the simple IRA, where you put money in and the company matches it. And now it's also the 427 plan. The 427 plan is operated through the state of Vermont. You can put away money into it, but it's not, as I understand it, it's not matched by the employer.
correct.
And so I don't have a particular feeling about whether it is good or bad to say that part of being eligible for this, benefit is the 427 plan. Both of them are both. I think the hook is that an employee has to put money into a retirement plan, but I don't know if there was a reason for this, but I wanted to flag that as one of your policy choices. I left it as it was recommended to me to expand it to 420, to eligibility for people who've contributed to 427, or 457. God, no, it should be 427, right?
For
It's
No,
457.
457.
457. So, I don't know if there's anything more to be said about that, but I'm just flagging it, and I'm leaving it as recommended. All right, I think we're getting close. I don't know if I have any other. Oh, I know I do have one more. It's down here a little further. Okay. So I have updated this to reflect 5 levels. And it actually was pretty much the same, it was just 4 levels. So it may have looked like it was different, but this is pretty much the same process as what's in the collective. It is the same process. It just looks prettier. I added in demotion as step 4. It's also optional under the collective bargaining agreement. So usually, demotion is rarely used these days. It's kind of come out of favor. But what I will do, if you need to see this, actually I'll ask you if you want to spend the time on it. I can give you the side-by-side of what's in the bargaining agreement on this section and what's written here. But I can assure you that substantively they mirror each other.
I trust that.
Would you like to discuss more or see it side by side?
I mean, I don't have particularly strong feelings, I guess. I know that there were certain situations where Chris had wanted to discuss, I don't know if this is one of those situations where he had wanted to discuss that more.
This is one where he took it from the union contract and put it into the policy, because that one was much better.
The union was better.
Yes, and it was more clear.
And this is mirroring the union.
Yes.
Mirror, yeah. I don't think.
The addition of demotion. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
So, as you can see, these now have oral. The reason these aren't exactly the same, like with this language up here, is because we have our own conduct section, which we're going to come back to in executive session. And if you want to talk more about this, I will, we can. This is all very specific to being in a collective bargaining unit and the rights that attend that as being part of a union. So I don't think we should put this into the handbook.
Can I ask,
But-
I'm sorry, Sarah, I understand the desire not to, like, make reference to the Labor Relations Board, but is there any reason why the substance of this, in terms of disciplinary action, should be different? And
Yeah, so-
truthfully, I'd like to make them as consistent, for me,
Yep,
and any manager, I would think, would want to make them as consistent as possible.
yep. So I'll say that the process that you go through, I think is consistent and probably better spelled out in the policy, in the handbook. And then when we go into executive session, I'll explain why, from a policy perspective, we don't want them to be exactly mirrored.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so.
Nice goat.
I know. I'm telling you, Bing gives me great wallpaper every day. when I
Or
come
is that
to
a
work.
sheep? Is that a doll sheep? I'm sorry. As a farmer, I should have known
It
better.
was a wild goat from Africa.
Some kind of wild deer, I think.
Okay. All right, I guess I
It was
don't,
just a random picture.
I guess I don't need to know. All right.
I think that's it. And so yep, I don't see any others. So the things that I have for us to talk about, and at least 3 of these will be very quick, I just need to say the statement. Code of conduct, overtime, outside employment, comp time, and disciplinary process. That's what I have those, and look, it's only 5 things.
You
And
were
it's
right.
only 6:10.
Everybody
So-
knows.
I think she
Yeah.
needs some-
Do you want to do the magic words to go into executive session? And then you can give me their feedback on those 3 things. And then I don't think you're gonna, unless you're voting on this, which I don't know that you are tonight,
Doesn't
you
sound
may
like
not
it.
have to come out to continue this topic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I will move to find that premature general public knowledge of attorney-client communication made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the board would clearly place it at a substantial disadvantage.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All I will move into
I
executive.
move that the board move into executive session for the purpose of receiving legal counsel on personnel policies. Joining us will be our attorney, Sarah Buxton, Chris Recchia, Brett, and
And Lisa.
Lisa.
I would like Lisa to be in there if you're
Yeah.
okay with it, because of the HR.
So that's my
I'll
motion.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're up. I'll make a motion to table number 8, review and action on commissioner's stipend.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We will be tabling number 8.
On to Article 9.
On to Article 9, hiring status of permanent department manager position.
Are we
So-
moving into executive session for this too?
I don't,
Yes.
well, there may be, I don't know if there's some stuff you want to talk about in open session, and then some stuff you want to talk about in executive session. It's up to you.
I think executive session.
Let's go into executive session, then we'll probably have actions on the other side
Yeah.
in open session. So I will move that the board move into executive session for the purposes of discussing the appointment of an employee. Joining us will be
Sarah,
just Sarah?
yes.
Just Sarah.
And then you may invite others in, maybe text them if you need them.
After.
Okay. Excellent.
I'll
I've made that
second.
motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're now out of executive session at 7:24.
So I will make a motion that we appoint Chris Recchia to the department manager position.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And then I'll-
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
It was so easy. Sarah, do they need to approve this contract?
And then I will
Yes.
make
I
a
think-
motion
yeah.
that we approve the employment contract previously agreed to, dated today,
9:25.
dated 9/25.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, contract approved.
You have what we're signing?
And now I think it's okay to say, good, thank you.
Congratulations, thank you.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I know this has been such a hard process. You did a great job reaching out to other people. I mean, I wanted you to reach out to
Oh, of
other
course.
people and
Yeah.
see what happened. And I did not want this to be like well, it wasn't, right, obviously.
Oh, no, you earned this, you earned your
Thank
seat at
Yes.
the
you. I
table.
appreciate
Yeah.
it. And I appreciate
Yeah.
that, the fact you did it. I wanted you to, it's important that you did it, and you did choose to do it, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Lots going on to figure out, and we'll move forward. I gave Lisa my self-evaluation that you asked for earlier today, so I don't even know if you got a chance, but that's an ongoing
I've copied
discussion,
it.
right?
Yeah.
That is like something we can do every time you want to do it, and any way you want to do it. I'm happy to do that. Sarah, thank you so much for your work on all this, and for you guys, the commissioners, having a board of 3, really, like, problematic, crazy to try and make this work, but you did, and I appreciate that. I think that's it for me.
All right.
Okay.
And you have a copy that we're all,
I do,
Sign
but we
that.
need to sign something.
Yes,
Yeah, we
yes.
need to
There was
sign.
an extra
we can
copy.
pick one that we'll sign, I guess.
We can
Yeah.
pick
Okay.
this one
I'll
right
do
here.
this one.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thanks,
really
guys.
excited to see what we get into on the next,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
we're gonna be-
with what we've accomplished with your
There'll be a lot.
part-time in the last,
I know, and we're still on,
Yeah.
we're on open session, right?
Yeah.
You need
Yes,
Oh,
to
yeah,
we
this
are.
is-
shut that off. Does anyone, well,
well, we need to adjourn.
you need to do
Well,
an
yeah,
adjournment
let's-
motion, right?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
sign these two.
Yeah.
But we need to work through the rest of we don't have another need for executive session.
I don't believe
No.
you do. Sarah,
Chris, will
I
you-
don't see a lot of
He'll
sheet
take
rocking
that
going
to
on the
the
background.
office,
Are
I
you
think.
not in your new place yet?
We got the siding on, finally. We hired these two women, leave it to a couple of women to
I
show
know.
up, get the work done, and do beautiful work. So they finished this week. I can't wait to go home and see it on Friday.
Excellent. That's great.
Wonderful.
That's great.
Congratulations.
Yeah, never let a man do what a woman could do is my, actually.
All right, I'm gonna sign off.
Mr.
Thanks,
Manager.
guys.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Sarah.
thank you, Sarah.
Bye, Sarah, thank you.
Bye. Take care.
So I think we are on to,
Any other business?
Are we off the record now?
No,
Or
No,
on the record?
we are not.
Okay,
We're
go
still-
ahead.
I had one thing on other business was, that was brought to my attention was, Jeff Crosby. He's not in the union, but they're taking his dues out of his paycheck.
So here's the problem with that. The new job that he had was supposed to be a manager's non-union
Yeah.
job. I'm gonna fully admit here, I've admitted to everybody else, the job description that I pulled up has this position as a union position. It should not be a union position. This is part of the discussion I'm gonna have with Jeff Lamette tomorrow.
Okay.
I think Jeff Lamette has said it's really up to Jeff Crosby how he wants to do this. I, as a manager, have the ability to change anybody's job descriptions anytime, but I want to find out what he wants, right?
Okay.
And the reality is, as a manager, he shouldn't be union,
no.
but he has chosen to be so far. That's why we're still taking the
Okay.
dues out. It's not because we're like taking the dues out, and he's like, why are you doing this to me? It's because
Okay.
he wants them out until we resolve this, okay?
Excellent.
Okay.
Fair enough.
How do you resolve it?
I talked to him.
Okay.
I say, in my mind, and I'm gonna do it with Jeff Lamette, the union rep too. He and I, when Jeff first got promoted, he and I were on board like, oh yeah, he's not gonna be union anymore, he's gonna be management. So Jeff, the union guy, was very supportive of that. Jeff Crosby was like, I don't know, where do I wanna be? And because I screwed up the job description, it was all management related, but it said the job description of, first class lineman, safety officer, union position. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
And that's what we hired. Yeah, we
I need
hired him
to,
on
I need
jobs.
to revisit that with
Okay.
him, and we will do that over time, okay? But I fully admit that
Yeah.
was my mistake, but we'll get it resolved.
When we get to, job descriptions, just on job descriptions, will those be an appendices for the handbook?
I
How will those-
don't think they should be, maybe a reference to them.
A reference to what
A
exists?
reference to them is appropriate, to like, for your specific job, look at your job description.
But you want to be able to change them?
Yeah, they
Oh,
need to be
well.
able to change, and
Oh.
also it's too, I would feel better about, like, I've never seen that where
Yeah,
an employee manual, like, included the job descriptions, but I think it's appropriate to reference them and say,
yeah.
look to that.
And on that same line, I sent to you a proposed job description
Yeah.
for the department manager, and I would like to get your feedback and share with Chris the format for that job description. I felt like it was much easier to read and to identify the duties
Cool.
in that format, instead of the one that we have. It's really hard to,
I
and
understand.
it's all together in one, so
Okay, got it.
please
Yeah.
look at that
Sure,
format.
And-
absolutely.
And if you are happy with it, maybe I'll do that with the others.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
that's what
That's what
that's
you're
my
hoping with.
proposal, is
Yeah.
that we look at that format
Okay.
and include in the job descriptions, the hours that are part of
And
that
I
job.
am, God bless you, but I'm gonna still push back a little bit on that. I feel like the hours should be in the personnel manual unless adjusted by the thing, rather than each employee having their hours specified.
Well, I
But
guess
I
that
get
in
you.
general, if somebody is a full-time employee and the office is open 8 to 4:30.
Yeah, that's when they're gonna be there.
Generally, that's the job
That's
their
description.
expectation.
If you
That is.
want to change that,
No,
that's fine.
I don't.
No, but I mean, if you want to change that as time goes on and somebody
I
has
see.
a special circumstance,
Yeah.
but the job itself has a clear
Agreed.
definition.
But I agree. Look, we're talking about very minor.
Right.
I just feel like it shouldn't be in the specific job descriptions. It should be in an overall personnel manual that says the hours are 8 to 4:30 unless otherwise adjusted. But I don't
Yeah,
care,
yeah,
honestly.
I mean, it's both
If it's important to you.
It doesn't matter.
If it's
I think
important to you, I'll
the
put it in
format
each.
is, and so that
Yeah.
the job description, that it's clear what the expectations
That's
are. And it's
absolutely
not
fair.
now.
Absolutely
In
fair,
the
that's
drafts
fine.
that you've given us, it's
Great.
not.
Well, first of all, or lastly of all, because this has
Yes,
been a long meeting.
lastly.
Thank you very, very much for the opportunity, and I feel like we'll all do great things together.
Welcome
Honest
aboard.
to God,
We
okay?
will.
So, thank
Yeah, we'll
you.
figure that out. Hammer out
On
the
a
details.
less sober note, or whatever, just to close this out, I wanted to do this in an executive session or off the record, which
We are on the
now.
record still.
Are we?
We are.
Somebody
We
make
haven't
the
adjourned.
motion to
Please.
adjourn, please.
I will move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Logan.
Aye.
Bless you for
Adjourn.
telling me that, because this is.
7:34.
Yeah.